My name is Marina Hale, and for most of my adult life I genuinely believed I understood what stability felt like. I was 42 years old, a senior lecturer in behavioral economics at a university in Northern California, and I'd always been the kind of woman people described as grounded, consistent, reliable, predictable in the comforting way. My husband, Adrian, and I had been married for nearly 18 years, long enough that our routines felt like second nature: morning coffee, shared Google calendars, familiar jokes worn down from years of repetition. To everyone around us, we were the couple people pointed to as proof that long-term love wasn't a myth: a cozy craftsman-style house, weekend farmers market trips, yearly coastal getaways, and an aura of quiet compatibility. Even my students joked, "Professor Hale, you must be living the perfect marriage life." I just smiled because what else was I supposed to do? Admit that the man who once carried me through career slumps and family losses now barely looked at me during dinner? Admit that the silence between us wasn't peaceful anymore, it was suffocating? But I didn't say anything. I learned to live with the distance the way you learn to live in a cold room, by layering excuses until you stop noticing the chill. All of that changed on an ordinary Thursday night, the kind of night that doesn't warn you it's about to split your life into a before and an after. Adrian was in the shower. I was grading final projects on the bed, lamplight warm. His phone vibrated on the nightstand. I almost ignored it, almost. Something inside me stirred. I glanced at the screen. One message: reservation confirmed for 2 at 7:45 p.m., the Sapphire Room. Window seating arranged exactly how she likes. I went cold. The Sapphire Room was the place we once dreamed of visiting when we made it. We never went. But now someone else was getting the evening I had once imagined. Something cracked inside me. My hands moved on their own as I unlocked the phone, same passcode as always, our wedding date. The phone opened, and my world shattered. Messages from a woman named Lena. Not a colleague. Not a client. Daily texts, hourly conversations, photos, inside jokes, intimate details, compliments he hadn't given me in years, plans he never made with me, pictures of them together, her leaning into him, smiling. His eyes sparkled in ways they hadn't around me in so long. My chest tightened, the room spun, my ears buzzed. Just then his voice came from the bathroom, "Babe, have you seen my brown belt?" My voice came out flat, "Check your closet." Left hook. He hummed a thank you. I placed the phone back exactly where it was and sat there, silent, feeling the kind of betrayal that punches from the inside. That night I lay beside him staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully. His hand never reached for mine. Every inch between us felt like a graveyard of forgotten promises. My mind replayed all the moments I'd ignored: late-night meetings, sudden gym sessions, unexplained cologne, the way he guarded his phone. I chose to believe because love makes fools of us long before betrayal does. By morning, I had made a decision: quiet, devastating, resolute. I kissed him goodbye. "Good luck with your investor meeting," I said calmly. He smiled, kissed my cheek, and left. Once the door shut, my body slumped, not in heartbreak, but in clarity. I wasn't going to scream or cause a scene. If Adrian wanted a perfect night with Lena, then that's exactly what he was going to get, just not the kind he expected. I sat at the dining table, untouched coffee in front of me, a fierce calm washing over me. I opened my laptop and searched for Lena. In minutes, I found her. Full name: Lena Morrison, age 29, internal communications at a partnered architecture firm. Married. Her husband, Gavin Morrison, landscape designer, kind-looking, smiling in every photo. He deserved to know, but not through a blunt call. So I crafted a polished professional email: "Dear Mr. Morrison. My name is Dr. Marina Hale, lecturer at Redwood University. Your recent urban renewal project caught our attention, and we would love to invite you as a guest speaker. If you're available, I'd like to schedule a dinner meeting at the Sapphire Room this Friday at 7:45 p.m. Warm regards, Dr. Marina Hale." 1 hour later he replied, "That sounds wonderful. Friday works." I felt no guilt, only certainty. A new version of me was forming, one who would not shrink in shame. I called the Sapphire Room. I'd like to reserve a table for 2 this Friday at 7:45. Window seat. And if possible, near the reservation under Adrian Hale. The hostess agreed. Any special requests? She asked. Just the view, I replied, because the view was all I needed. The truth wouldn't need to be shouted. It would reveal itself in candlelight, in silence, in the exact moment Adrian realized the woman he thought was soft had finally opened her eyes. When Friday finally arrived, the entire day moved with a strange, uncanny smoothness, the kind that happens right before a major storm. I went about my routine exactly as I always did, lectures, student consultations, department emails, but everything felt sharper, more deliberate, as if my brain had switched into a mode it had reserved for survival. By 6:30 p.m., I was standing in front of my mirror, adjusting the collar of a simple navy dress. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, just clean, elegant, authoritative. I wanted to look like the woman Adrian had underestimated. I wanted to look like truth in human form. At 7:20, I arrived at the Sapphire Room. The hostess smiled politely, her eyes flicking to the reservation list. Dr. Hale? Your table is ready. And the one you requested is just a few steps away. I followed her through the warm glow of the restaurant. Candlelight flickered against crystal glasses, silverware clinked softly, couples murmured over wine. And there, 2 tables away, was the reservation under Adrian Hale. Empty for now. Waiting. Exactly as planned. I sat down, composed, steady. At 7:42, Gavin walked in. Tall, soft-featured, wearing a button-down like he had ironed it carefully, hoping to make a good impression. He looked like the kind of man who believed meetings were genuine and people were kind until proven otherwise. I stood up to greet him. Dr. Hale? He asked warmly. Thank you for the invitation. His handshake was sincere. He had no idea. We talked, briefly. I asked him about his latest project, and his eyes lit up with passion. The kind of passion a betrayed man doesn't deserve to have crushed without warning. But I wasn't here to hurt him. I was here to show him the truth. At exactly 7:46 p.m., I saw them. Adrian and Lena walked in together. Not side by side, no, that would be too risky. But close enough that anyone watching could see the familiarity in their movements. Lena wore a fitted emerald green dress, the kind meant to be noticed. Adrian looked polished, confident, proud in a way he hadn't looked around me in years. They approached their table, smiling, unaware. Unaware of me. Unaware of Gavin. Unaware that their perfect night was about to break apart like thin glass under pressure. Adrian reached for the chair to pull it out for Lena, something he had never done for me in the last decade, and his eyes drifted up for a split second. They landed on me. Froze. I watched the exact moment recognition hit him. His expression, open, relaxed, joyful, collapsed into panic so fast it was almost cinematic. His breath caught. His shoulders tensed. His hand slipped from the chair. Lena turned to follow his line of sight, confused at first, then terrified. Marina, she whispered. My name sounded foreign coming from her. Gavin looked between the three of us, his brows knitting together slowly, his mind beginning to assemble the picture. You know each other? He asked gently. His voice hurt. It held sincerity, the kind that trembles when truth is approaching with a knife. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The silence did the work for me. Adrian stepped forward, stammering, Marina, I can explain. His voice cracked. The calm, charming, confident man I married was gone. There was only guilt left, standing upright and shaking. Lena looked at Gavin, panic rising in her eyes. Gav, I can explain too, this isn't, he held up a hand. Not harshly. Not angrily. Just, devastated. Sit down, he said to her quietly. She did. Because what else could she do when the truth had cornered her from all sides? I turned to Gavin. I didn't bring you here to humiliate you, I said softly. I brought you here because you deserve to know the truth from the same angle I saw it. Gavin swallowed hard. The hurt in his eyes told me everything. His world was breaking in real time. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He didn't create a scene. He simply looked at his wife with the expression of a man whose heart had been stabbed by the one person he trusted most. How long? He asked her. A whisper, but sharper than any blade. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence between them told him everything. Adrian stepped closer to me, voice trembling. Marina, please, can we talk privately? This isn't what you think. I made a mistake. I was going to end it. I swear I was going to. I looked at him, and for the first time in 18 years, I felt nothing. No attachment. No heartbreak. No longing. Just clarity. The reservation is yours, I said quietly. Enjoy your evening. I picked up my purse, nodded respectfully to Gavin, and began to walk toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Gavin say to his wife, "We're done." Behind him, I heard Adrian whisper my name like a man drowning in the ocean he created. But I didn't turn back. Not even once. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. I inhaled deeply, letting it fill the spaces where betrayal used to live. For the first time in years, the air felt clean. And I realized something profound. Revenge doesn't always look like rage, or destruction, or dramatic explosions. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply the truth, delivered in a room full of people who can no longer escape it. And as I walked away from the sapphire room, heels clicking against the pavement, I understood exactly who I was now. Not a victim. Not a scorned wife. Not a silent partner in my own unhappiness. I was Marina Hale. And this was only the beginning. When I got home that night, the house felt different, like the walls were listening, waiting, holding their breath. Adrian wasn't home yet, which meant he was still at the office, or with her. I didn't bother checking. His patterns no longer mattered. His truth no longer mattered. Only my plan did. I walked into the bedroom, opened the dresser, and pulled out the file box we used for important documents. What an ironic label. Inside were tax returns, insurance forms, mortgage papers, and something more valuable than any of those. Our joint financial records. For years, I never questioned where our money went. We lived comfortably, paid bills on time, took the occasional vacation. Nothing extravagant. Nothing suspicious. Until now. With a few clicks, my suspicion became confirmation. Multiple charges at luxury hotels. Not one, several. Spa bookings under his name. Designer store receipts I'd never seen in the house. And worst of all, an expensive bracelet from an upscale boutique. Engraved. With initials that weren't mine. LM Lena Morrison. My stomach twisted, but it wasn't pain anymore. It was fuel. Betrayal wasn't breaking me. It was sharpening me. I closed the laptop and began packing, not my things, but his. Shirts, suits, shoes, cufflinks, watches, every object he thought defined his status went straight into boxes. I taped each one neatly, labeling nothing, offering no emotional trace. By the time I finished, the closet looked like he had never lived here at all. Only my clothes hung there now, a wardrobe belonging to a woman rediscovering her spine. And then I found something else. A small, velvet ring box. A second ring. New. Different. Not mine. Not our anniversary. Not any date that mattered to us. He was planning something. For her. Maybe a trip. Maybe a proposal after their calculated escape. Maybe he thought he could replace 18 years with a few hotel nights and a shiny stone. I held the ring between my fingers, and for the first time since discovering the affair, I laughed. Not in humor. In disbelief. In liberation. In a sound that didn't belong to the woman he had underestimated for so long. When I heard the garage door open an hour later, I placed the ring back in the box and set it on the kitchen counter, right where he'd see it. The door clicked. His footsteps entered the house. Casual. Unaware. "Marina," he called. His voice was calm, too calm for a man living a double life. I stepped into the kitchen just as he saw the ring box. His face shifted, shock, confusion, then poorly concealed panic. Where did you find that?" he asked. His voice cracked at the edges. "Good. In your briefcase," I said simply, even though that wasn't where I found it. Let him guess. Let him fear. Let him scramble. It's not what you think," he stammered. "Really?" I asked, tilting my head. "Then what is it, Adrian?" He opened his mouth, but no sound came out, just the desperate flicker of a lie forming and dying at the same time. I didn't push. I didn't argue. I simply stepped aside, revealing the neatly taped boxes stacked in the hallway. His eyes widened. He swallowed hard. What is all this?" "Your things," I said plainly. "You'll need them very soon." I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't explain. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore, it was powerful. He reached toward the ring box like it could save him. But the moment his fingers touched it, I walked past him. Calm. Unbothered. Already 3 steps ahead. "We'll talk tomorrow," I said. "Wear something nice." Because tomorrow wasn't just dinner. It was the reckoning. The sapphire room was waiting. And so was the truth. The night arrived, and I stepped into the sapphire room 20 minutes early, wearing a deep emerald dress Adrian had once said was too bold for a dinner, my hair in a sleek bun, heels clicking softly against the marble floor. I wasn't there to be admired, I was there to observe, to control, to unveil. The table set for 2 in front of me had a perfect vantage of the window seating across the room. Adrian entered moments later, gray blazer impeccably tailored, Lena in a crimson dress that hugged her like confidence incarnate. They moved together with an ease that screamed intimacy, laughter spilling freely, hand gestures too familiar to my eyes. I sipped my water, noting how Lena's hand brushed Adrian's, how he leaned in to catch a laugh she offered, how the candlelight danced on her earrings. Every gesture was a dagger, but my hand stayed calm, my lips pressed into a line, my mind constructing every step, every word, every reveal. Minutes later Gavin arrived, the man whose eyes had been bright online but now scanned the room with the faintest hesitation, a man about to be thrust into a storm he had never anticipated. I rose from my table when I saw him, extending my hand as if we were old acquaintances meeting for a lecture series, and when he shook it, I felt a strange relief at his unaware presence. Conversation started formally, politely, but my eyes never left Adrian and Lena. The moment came when Adrian's gaze, careless and confident, met mine across the room. His smile faltered, confusion flickered, and Lena's eyes followed, widening, recognition dawning like a storm breaking. I excused myself, walking past them with measured steps, and Lena froze, lips parting in a whisper of my name. I turned, voice even, controlled, "Yes, it's me. The one you've replaced with a fantasy." She paled, eyes darting to Adrian, who now looked like a man caught mid-thief. I called out to Gavin, gesturing for him to follow, and he approached, the polite confusion on his face slowly transforming into comprehension as I calmly explained that Adrian was mine and Lena was his deception. The restaurant air thickened as realization struck them both. Adrian opened his mouth, stammering, Lena's hand flew to cover it, tears glimmering. I guided Gavin back to my table, seating him beside me, and then gestured for Adrian and Lena to join us in a private room. Silence hung between us for a beat, not awkward but precise, the weight of truth settling. I looked at Adrian, calm but unyielding. 3 days ago, I saw your reservation. All the messages, all the plans, every secret you kept from me for months, I know. Lena tried to speak, apologizing, excuses spilling, but I raised my hand. You don't get to justify. Gavin deserves the truth, and now, you will all face it together. The tension was almost physical, Adrian's posture stiff, Lena's lips trembling, Gavin's fists tightening around his napkin. I told them everything, methodically, calmly, letting each word land like a stone in the otherwise serene atmosphere. No shouting, no dramatics, only the raw exposure of deception. As they absorbed the magnitude, I leaned back, letting the silence settle without my interference. The room had shifted, the illusion Adrian and Lena had created was gone, replaced by stark reality. Adrian pleaded, begged for understanding, forgiveness, but I remained immovable. You chose this. Every message, every lie, every touch that was mine to have, you gave to her instead. You cannot ask me to erase it now. Lena wept openly, Adrian's face crumpled, Gavin's jaw clenched, absorbing the truth in real time, and I, for the first time that year, felt the liberation of being untangled from their betrayal. I excused myself to the restroom for a moment, not because I needed to cry but to witness my own composure, the transformation from the woman who endured quietly to the one who acted decisively. Returning, I sat across from Gavin, whose gratitude and disbelief mixed in his eyes, and I whispered, you now know what I knew. It's raw, painful, but the only way forward is clarity. Adrian slumped, realizing the veneer of control was gone, Lena could not recover the charm, the lies were fully exposed, and Gavin's presence meant accountability. I left the room first, heels clicking, dress flowing, a statement of movement, of unbroken dignity. I returned to my table with Gavin, sharing a quiet, firm look that needed no words. The Sapphire Room, once a place of dreams and betrayal, had become the crucible in which truth burned bright and sharp. That night, Adrian and Lena left first, carrying only the weight of exposure and humiliation, and Gavin and I remained, slowly processing the aftermath, a silent pact forming between two people scarred but unbroken. I finished my water, straightened my notes, and for the first time in months, felt a lightness in my chest, a rare kind of victory not fueled by malice but by justice and truth. The night closed around us, city lights glittering beyond the windows, the air crisp and unrelenting, but I knew with certainty that my life had shifted irrevocably. I was no longer the woman who endured in silence, I was Marina Hale, deliberate, strong, and unshakable, stepping into a future of my own design. The morning after, I woke in my apartment overlooking the city, the sun filtering through pale curtains, casting gold across the hardwood floor. I moved through the space with the precision of someone reclaiming territory, packing away items that reminded me of Adrian, removing traces of a life that had been mine in theory but not in reality. The phone rang. Gavin. His voice was steady but carried the weight of everything that had happened. Coffee? He asked. I think we need to talk, not just about last night but about what comes next. I agreed, choosing a small cafe tucked along a quiet street, one where no one knew us, where we could exist as two people no longer defined by someone else's betrayal. When I arrived, he was already there, notebook open, 2 lattes steaming in front of him. I still can't believe you orchestrated all of that, he said, shaking his head, a mixture of admiration and disbelief in his expression. It wasn't about revenge, I replied, taking my seat. It was about clarity, for both of us, and for him. I needed the truth to land where it would matter most. We spoke for hours, unpacking the layers of deception, the impact on all involved, and the strange relief of finally seeing things exposed. For the first time in months, I laughed without pretense, the kind of laughter that comes from unburdening. Gavin and I didn't rush into anything, we existed in parallel grief, mutual understanding, and a quiet connection that had nothing to do with passion and everything to do with integrity. Over the following weeks, we met often, sharing small victories, frustrations, and reflections on trust, betrayal, and self-respect. Adrian tried calling, texting, visiting the edges of my life with half apologies and attempts at reconciliation, but I didn't respond. I didn't need the spectacle of his remorse, I needed my own peace. The divorce proceedings moved quickly, mediated and professional, Adrian left with what he could claim legally, but none of the dignity or respect he had violated. Lena disappeared from our city, resigning abruptly from her position, retreating into a life that had no place for the chaos she had caused. I continued teaching, lecturing with renewed energy, and for the first time in nearly 2 decades, my students saw more than a professor, they saw someone who had reclaimed herself fully. One evening, months later, Gavin and I walked along the Riverwalk after a seminar he had given to my students. The city lights reflected in the water, soft music from nearby performers drifting over us. "Do you think we're ready to try again?" he asked, careful, patient, respect in every word. I smiled, considering everything, feeling a slow warmth fill the hollow spaces that betrayal had carved. "Not in the way we once imagined love," I said. "But maybe in the way it should be, honest, deliberate, without shadows." He took my hand, gentle, unhurried, a promise not of perfection but of presence. That night, as we walked back through the streets bathed in city lights, I realized that the life I had feared was lost had been transformed into something new, a life I had built with my own hands and my own rules. A year after the storm, I was no longer the woman who had waited silently for betrayal to pass unnoticed. I was Marina Hale, fully aware, fully free, and fully alive. I had survived the storm not by clinging, not by forgiving prematurely, but by acting, by claiming truth, and by refusing to diminish myself for anyone's transgressions. Betrayal had once threatened to define me, but now it had only shaped the clarity with which I stepped forward. I placed my coffee down, feeling the quiet warmth seep into my hands, and thought, the past is a teacher, the present is my canvas, and the future belongs entirely to me. I had chosen myself, and in doing so, I discovered the strength, dignity, and peace that had always been mine to claim. The following morning, I woke to the faint hum of the city and sunlight spilling across the floorboards of my apartment, warm and uninviting in a way that felt strangely like freedom. I moved deliberately through the rooms, arranging my life not for anyone else, but for me, removing remnants of a marriage that had long been over in spirit even if it lingered on paper. My phone buzzed, Gavin again. "Morning," he said simply, "coffee at the usual spot?" I agreed, and as I walked to the cafe, I felt the strange lightness of someone who had carried a burden for too long and finally set it down. When I arrived, he was already there, sitting with a quiet patience, notebook open, 2 steaming lattes between us. "I can't believe you managed all of that," he said, eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. "It wasn't about revenge," I replied evenly, sliding into the seat across from him. "It was about clarity. For both of us, and for him. I needed the truth to land where it mattered most." We spoke for hours, unraveling layers of deception, exploring the fractures in trust, and slowly feeling the relief of exposure. Laughter emerged naturally, not the forced kind, but the kind that comes when you've finally unburdened yourself of years of lies and silence. We didn't rush anything, there was no pressure, no premature promises, just the quiet understanding of 2 people who had survived the same storm. Weeks passed. We met frequently, sharing reflections on trust, betrayal, and reclaiming dignity. Adrian attempted to re-enter my life with half-hearted apologies and pleading messages, but I didn't respond. I didn't need his spectacle of remorse, I needed peace. The divorce was finalized efficiently. Adrian retained what he could legally claim, but none of the respect he had squandered. Lena vanished from our city, resigning abruptly, retreating to a life that no longer intersected with ours. I returned to teaching with renewed vigor. My students noticed the change, not just in how I lectured, but in the confidence radiating from me. I was no longer just Marina Hale, professor of behavioral economics, I was a woman who had reclaimed her own life. Months later, Gavin and I walked along the Riverwalk after a seminar he had given to my students. The lights of the city reflected across the rippling water, distant music from street performers floating through the air. "Do you think we're ready?" he asked, careful, patient, respect underlying every word. I smiled, considering everything that had happened, feeling warmth fill spaces that betrayal had hollowed out. "Not in the way we once imagined," I said. "But in the way it should be, honest, deliberate, and without shadows." He reached for my hand gently, no rush, no pressure, a quiet promise not of perfection but of presence. That night, as we walked back through streets illuminated by city lights, I realized the life I thought was lost had transformed into something entirely my own, a life I had consciously built. A year after the storm, I was no longer the woman who silently endured betrayal. I was Marina Hale, aware, free, and alive. I survived the chaos not by clinging to what was broken, not by forgiving too soon, but by confronting truth, taking control, and refusing to let anyone diminish me. Betrayal could have defined me, but instead it gave me clarity and strength. I poured my morning coffee, feeling its warmth seep into my hands, and understood fully, the past had taught me, the present was mine to shape, and the future belonged entirely to me. I had chosen myself, and in doing so, I had found the dignity, strength, and peace I had always deserved. I would never let anyone's lies or selfishness steal that again. I had reclaimed everything, my life, my power, and my future. As Marina Hale closes this chapter of her life, one thing becomes crystal clear: your self-worth is non-negotiable. Betrayal may break trust, but it can also ignite the strength you never knew you had. If Marina's story resonated with you, if it reminded you of a time you faced deception or reclaimed your power, don't just watch, engage. Hit the like button to support stories that celebrate resilience, subscribe to join our community of empowered storytellers, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a tale of courage, revenge, and redemption. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done if you were in Marina's shoes? How do you define strength after betrayal? Your perspective might help someone else find the courage to reclaim their life. Remember, every ending is a new beginning, and the power to rewrite your story always belongs to you. Stay strong, stay aware, and never compromise your worth.